Mr. Tarkowski, would you like a breakout room?
Chris, do you need a breakout room or do you need any time?
No, sir.
Okay, if you're ready to proceed, we're ready to proceed. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Court's going to call 24 CRI 001, State of Ohio versus Christopher Ferrell. Matters before the court for a change of plea hearing. We are conducting that by remote video. The defendant's appearing from the Ashland County Jail. Mr. Ferrell, do you consent to having this hearing by video?
Yes, sir.
Defendant's attorney Gregory Tarkowski is also present. Prior to going on the record, I did inquire as to whether the defendant needed to speak privately to his attorney. They indicated that was not necessary. On behalf of the state of Ohio's Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Mike Callow, that was charged in this matter with an indictment after complaint on January 11th, 2024 with 2 counts. Count 1, cruelty to a companion animal, felony of the 5th degree. Count 2, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, also a felony of the 5th degree. Mr. Callow, are there any plea agreements?
Judge, the state of Ohio is anticipating a plea to the indictment in this case. There's been no representations of a plea agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Callow. Is that your understanding, Mr. Tarkowski?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell, is it your understanding you're going to plead guilty today to both counts in the indictment?
Yes, sir.
Court's not going to sentence you today. I'm going to order what's called a pre-sentence investigation, which will give me some background information about you and the offenses here. Knowing that, I have to give them some time to write that, so we'll probably have you back for sentencing in probably 4 to 6 weeks. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
I have no doubt that your attorney has gone through all of this with you, but you and I do have to have a discussion about your rights on the record before we get to your pleas. Can you start by telling me your full name, please?
Christopher Paul Ferrell,
What's your date of birth?
1/20/1973.
How far have you gone in school?
I graduated Hillsdale High School in 92.
Do you have any difficulty reading, writing, or understanding the English language?
No, sir, I don't.
Are you a United States citizen?
Yes, sir, I am.
Have you taken any medications, alcohol, or drugs today which would affect your ability to understand what we're talking about?
I take my regular medications in the morning that are prescribed to me by the VA, but nothing bad otherwise.
Okay, do those affect your ability to understand things?
No, they don't.
Do you suffer from any kind of mental illness or disease that affects your ability to understand things?
No, sir, I don't.
Are you presently on any kind of probation, community control, parole, or post-release control?
No.
Do you have any other pending cases anywhere?
I had a wrongful entrustment case on December 8th of last year, which I only owed 10 hours of community service. My license was suspended for a year, and I had fines, which my mother's been paying the fines. Otherwise, that's it, sir.
Were you on probation for that offense?
No, I was not.
Okay. But nothing is pending currently.
No, sir.
Is anybody threatening you or forcing you to enter a plea of guilty today?
No, sir.
Has anybody promised you anything to get you to plead guilty?
No, sir.
I'm going to share my screen with you here briefly. Are you able to see that document?
Yes, sir.
The waiver of constitutional rights and plea of guilty form. It does set forth both counts that you're going to be pleading to, the potential penalties for those offenses, as well as the other consequences involved with those offenses. And it sets forth the rights that you're going to be giving up by entering a plea. On page 3 of that document, is that your signature above signature of defendant?
Yes, sir.
Prior to signing that, did you have the opportunity to read it?
Yes, sir, I did.
You have the opportunity to discuss it with Mr. Tarkowski?
Yes, I did.
Do you have any questions about that document?
No, sir.
Stop sharing that. Have you had enough time with your attorney in this case?
Yes, sir, I have.
Are you satisfied with his representation of you?
Yes, sir, I am.
Mr. Farrell, do you have any questions whatsoever about the two charges that you're going to be pleading to?
No, sir.
You understand the allegations set forth in the indictment?
Yes, sir.
You understand by pleading guilty, you're making a complete admission that you did commit those allegations?
Yes, sir.
As I said earlier, if you plead guilty, I'm going to find you guilty today, but I'm going to sentence you at a later date. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Also, by pleading guilty, you are waiving your right to appeal any ruling that the court might have made against you in this case prior to today. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
We do need to discuss the potential penalties here. Both of these are felonies of the 5th degree. That means the court could sentence you to prison anywhere from 6 to 12 months on each count. That does go in increments of 1 month. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, or 12 months. Both carry potential fines of up to $2,500. If I made certain findings at sentencing, those prison sentences could be ran consecutive to each other, meaning one after the other, or concurrent, meaning at the same time. In the event that they were consecutive to each other, the maximum period of incarceration you are looking at is 24 months in prison. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Court could also order any restitution that might be appropriate, as well as court costs. Do you have any questions about those penalties?
No, sir.
Neither of these are mandatory prison charges, so the court could put you onto community control. If I did so, you'd have certain rules you'd have to follow and conditions. Those could include reporting, counseling, drug testing. But community control can also include local jail time or residential sanctions. If I put you on community control, I would reserve those 6 to 12-month prison terms that we just discussed in each count. And then if you violated the rules of community control, you violated the law, you left state without permission, and you were found to be in violation of community control, at that point, the court could keep you on community control. I could impose additional or more restrictive sanctions, again, including jail or other residential sanctions. I could extend your community control to the maximum period, which is 5 years, or I could terminate community control and I could impose prison sanctions from the ranges that we discussed, the 6 to 12 months. Again, that could be either concurrent or consecutive. You understand community control, sir?
Yes, sir, I do.
In the event that you are sentenced to prison in this case, upon your release from prison, you would be subject to an optional term of post-release control. It's optional in this case of up to 2 years. If you are placed on post-release control, the adult parole authority would supervise you, and again, you would have rules you'd have to follow. If you violate those rules, the parole board could send you back to prison on a rules violation for 9 months at a time, but not to exceed 1/2 of your originally stated term for all violations. In addition, if you commit a new felony while you're on post-release control, in addition to being sentenced for that new felony, that court could terminate post-release control and impose a consecutive prison term of 1 year or the time left on post-release control, whichever is greater. So that would be consecutive to any new prison sentence on a new felony. Do you understand post-release control?
Yes, sir.
With respect to appellate rights, any notice of appeal in a criminal case does need to be filed within 30 days of the sentencing entry. If you couldn't afford an attorney for an appeal, one could be appointed to you if you were indigent upon your request. Likewise, the cost of an appeal could be paid out of public funds if you were found to be indigent. You understand your appellate rights, sir?
Yes, sir.
The last thing we do need to discuss are your constitutional rights. As you sit there right now, you are presumed to be innocent. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You understand that you have the right to have these charges tried to a jury of 12 people?
Yes, sir.
You understand at that trial, the state of Ohio has the burden of proof. That means they have to prove to all 12 of those jurors beyond a reasonable doubt that you were in fact guilty of every essential element of these crimes before you could be convicted.
Yes, sir.
You understand you could have your attorney with you at the trial and he could confront or cross-examine any of the witnesses put on by the state.
Yes, sir.
You understand that you could have your own witnesses appear at that trial, and if they weren't willing to appear voluntarily, the court could subpoena them and make them appear.
Yes, sir.
And then the last right you have is you could not be forced to testify against yourself at that trial. And if you chose not to testify, that fact could not be used against you to prove your guilt. Do you understand that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about your constitutional rights?
No, sir.
You understand by pleading you are waiving those constitutional rights?
Yes, sir, I do.
Do you have any questions for me before we proceed to your plea?
No, sir.
You need any additional time to talk to your attorney?
No, sir.
Mr. Ferrell, then with respect to count 1, cruelty to companion animals, a felony of the 5th degree, what is your plea?
Guilty.
With respect to count 2, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, what is your plea?
Guilty.
Record will reflect the defendant is making a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary decision to withdraw any prior pleas of not guilty, instead entering pleas of guilty to the 2 charges outlined. I am finding the defendant's been informed of his constitutional rights, that he understands the nature of the charges, the effects of pleas of guilty, as well as the possible penalties that could be imposed. Therefore, I am accepting the defendant's pleas of guilty and entering findings of guilty to the 2 counts at this time. I am going to order a pre-sentence investigation. The deputies at the jail will have the paperwork for that. If you have any questions about that process, please contact your attorney. Or it's going to schedule the matter for a sentencing hearing. Mr. Tarkowski, would you like to do this before the Hootman case on the 17th?
Sure, that's fine. So 9 o'clock? Or sorry, wrong date. Was that set at 10?
Yeah, so 9:30.
So 9:30? That's fine.
Does that work for the state?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Court is going to schedule the matter for sentencing for Friday, May 17th at 9:30. Mr. Tarkowski, is there anything further we can do today?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Callow, anything further?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, this matter will be in recess then until May 17th at 9:30. Thank you.
Recording
Judge.
stopped.